My associate executive director, Shauna Moses, is an incredible colleague whom I work with, and she has an incredible story too in terms of why she's interested in the field of mental illness and mental health. Um, and she introduced me to AIR. She found a lot of meaning in her own life and in the work that we do. Shauna's a very selfless person who likes to help others, and she felt that by telling her own personal story and struggles with her loss of her brother through suicide and her own issues with mental health, that she could help other people. And I was inspired by Shauna, and I wanted to learn more about an organization that was both helping her and she was helping the organization through her communication skills and time and efforts. The most important thing about AIR's mission is the fact that it is striving to fight stigma and discrimination against people who have mental illnesses and their families. The biggest barrier to helping people who are having a mental illness is getting them to get treatment. And so often people don't go for treatment because of the stigma. I can't tell you how many calls I get from people I know, people who are well placed in government, high level officials, well known personalities, as well as everyday families who are ashamed to admit that somebody in their family has a mental illness or an addiction and needs help. By fighting the stigma that has too often been associated with mental illness, AIR is making great strides in helping people to get the treatment they need and therefore recover and get better and prevent tragedies. Stigma is in mental illness is really terrible. It's like leprosy used to be, and then cancer. And now it's mental illness. I think we've made a lot of strides in the last 20 years, but there's so much more to overcome. You can fight stigma when people are educated. So AIR's mission is to both start the conversation, engage people, make them feel comfortable, give them information, educate them, and as a result, they're able to recognize the signs and symptoms of mental illness in themselves or in people around them, and then not to fear what people would think and get access to treatment. So I think AIR's a wonderful organization. I think it's very unique too in that it uses animals to engage in conversation, because everybody always likes to go up and pet a dog. I'm a cat person, but I like dogs too. And so it helps to start the conversation about something that could be initially uncomfortable, but ultimately once you start the conversation, you'll be surprised how common in mental illness is. 1 in 4 people in the United States suffer from a mental health disorder at some point in their life. So if they're not affected directly, they are through their family, their colleagues, their friends. And we really have to start the conversation, and AIR starts the conversation and takes it even further, which is so important in overcoming barriers to treatment. I'm a supporter. I actually just recently learned about AIR. Shauna did a wonderful feature article that appeared in our Najama News, which is a publication that she's the editor of. She also did another article for the Collaborative Support Programs of New Jersey's wellness newsletter, and she was elected to the board. So I'm learning about AIR, and I always like to be part of any organization that has the same goal as the New Jersey Association of Mental Health and Addiction Agencies, which is to increase access to treatment for anyone and everyone that needs it, and to fight stigma and discrimination. There's nothing to be ashamed about being sick. It doesn't matter what type of illness you have. Mental illness is a physical illness, just as heart disease is. I like to help people. I think although my background and training is not in social work, I've always characterized myself as a closet social worker since childhood. It gives me a lot of satisfaction if I can help someone in any way, and especially those who cannot easily help themselves or can lend a helping hand. And I think that by educating people, then you overcome the false misperceptions and the fear of the unknown that has too often been associated with mental illnesses. By providing factual information, AIR is doing an enormous effort in helping people to understand mental illness and then dispel the fears. The media through films and TV has too often misportrayed mental illness and mental illnesses. An exception to that was A Beautiful Mind, and I know that Dr. and Mrs. John F. Nash Jr. are also supporting AIR. And they're supporting it because they're using their own struggle and story with how debilitating it can be to have a mental illness and then be discriminated against. And they're recognizing the importance. If you tell your story and you share it, it helps others. And so I think that was a good example of the media educating. I like to help people and improve the world, but a person at a time. So if through the support of AIR and the educational events, the visibility, the advocacy that it's doing, that we can help more people, one person at a time, we can help people recover, avoid tragedies, achieve a full and productive life, and contribute to society. That's what I hope to do, and I see it as an excellent vehicle that feeds into a large movement that's been going on in the United States through mental health stakeholder organizations. And sometimes, though, you just have to start small and then grow it. The other thing that I hope to do is to introduce AIR to other organizations and some of my colleagues, perhaps in other states, to help grow and expand its mission. So maybe in a few years it'll be a household word. In the future, I think that AIR helps others by educating, and I think it helps those who have been involved because of the high prevalence of mental illness. Almost everyone has somebody close to them that is involved or has unfortunately lost someone. Suicide is the second leading cause of death between people between the ages of 10 and 24. And I hope that we can save lives, and I hope we can make people better. And I hope that we can fight stigma and discrimination, because when someone does have somebody who's ill in the family, they shouldn't have to speak in whispers. They should be able to discuss it as openly as if you're going into the hospital because you had a broken leg. I'm Debra Wentz. I'm CEO of the New Jersey Association of Mental Health and Addiction Agencies, and I'm joining AIR and starting the conversation.